Yeah, does this seem weird to anybody else? I mean, we're looking down on...
A Fender Stratocaster.
Only that's not...
A Fender Stratocaster.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's weird, man. That's weird.
Yes, it's a Strat, but no, it's not a Fender, at least not all of it. The neck and more came from Warmoth, and despite appearing in a lot of Weezer's early music videos and live performances, it's actually not the guitar that you hear on the Blue album. So in this video, we're going to look at what the internet has to say about the heavy guitars on the Blue album by Weezer.
He's copyrighted.
I got a copyright on this. So you're saying that I can't do this?
No, you can't do that. Can't film.
Easy mode. If you go to Weezerpedia, it says before they left to go to New York City to go to Electric Lady Studios, Rivers had ordered the parts from Warmoth for what would ultimately become the Cuomo caster, but the parts hadn't come in yet, so they left without it. Once in the studio, Rivers rehearsed on a red Warmoth Stratocaster that he acquired from Jason Cropper. Jason's tenure in the band is worthy of its own video, but long story short, he was the original guitar player in Weezer when they went into the studio in August of '93. For reasons we won't get into here, he was fired before the album was completed. When he left, he took his red Warmoth with him. I've always known that Ric Ocasek was the producer of the Blue album.
I particularly like to make records for brand new bands because I think I'm listening to the albums for the future, you know, I'm listening to them ahead of time. I'm sympathetic to the artists, maybe because I've been through all that. I'm not too scary to them. Maybe I'm scary looking to them, but I'm not too scary in the studio.
What I didn't know is that he provided his own guitars for the recording, namely a Fender Jaguar, a Gibson Les Paul Jr. double cutaway, and a Gibson Les Paul Special. Shout out to Taylor Fee 815 that pointed this out in the comments of my short about the Blue Warmoth. By all accounts, we know that the intro to Say It Ain't So was done on the Jaguar, so let's move on to the heavy guitars. Carl Koch, the band's longtime historian, says the heavy guitars on the Blue album were provided by Ric's Les Pauls. But there's a weird quote attributed to drummer Patrick Wilson that implies they used a Super Strat. If you're feeling generous, you might interpret this to mean that Pat was referring to Jason's red Warmoth, which, to be fair, was customized and hot-rodded. But personally, when I think of Super Strat, I think Ibanez, Jackson, a Floyd Rose Tremolo, Shredder type guitars. To be honest, the whole exchange sounds like a miscommunication or a crossed wire. I can't find a source for this so that I know what Pat was saying in context. If you have any insight on this, please let me know in the comments. So Weezerpedia's theory is that he could have used Jason's Warmoth to record his parts, and Jason used the Telecaster to record his parts, and then after Jason left, Rivers re-recorded Jason's parts using Ric's Les Pauls. This is a red flag to me. When I listen to the record, it sounds like 90% of the time the guitars are playing in unison, in which case I would think that you would want both the guitars to be the same. I am not a lawyer, but from a legal standpoint, it would make sense that if any tracks were recorded using Jason's equipment, which he took when he left the band, that could be an issue later on. Jason could come back later demanding an engineer credit or some type of production credit. It would make sense for Rivers to re-record those in addition to Jason's parts. So we need to move on to normal mode. Enough with the hearsay. Let's hear what the man himself has to say. Here he is with Questlove.
It's your first record, this is a major label, you need a producer. And then one day I was in the supermarket shopping for ramen noodles or whatever, and Just What I Needed by The Cars came on.
Oh, wow.
I don't mind you hanging out.
Whoa, that's kind of like what Weezer's supposed to be sounding like. Let's work with that guy. Like, I'm talking on the phone with Ric Ocasek, and he gets us.
You know, we looked up to him a lot, and when he said something, we had to be like, all right.
And I walked in like with a super muddy sound. I was using the
Humbucker in the neck position.
By myself in the garage, it sounded amazing. It was huge, fat sound. It just didn't work in the context of a full band and a big studio. He kept saying, "Why don't you try this guitar?" And he'd hand me his '58 Junior. No, that's too thin. But he just kept coming back. And then eventually I hear it all in the mix. It's
Just
like,
gonna
dang,
cut
he's
through.
right again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the process for finding guitar sounds? Was it like guitar, pedals, amp?
It's
like,
pretty straight in.
just like right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Ric's guitar. I use it to this day. No pedals.
No pedals,
I was
just
totally against pedals. In
11.
fact, just the other day, I sent a note to the mixer about Tom Petty cover we just did and said, can we hear it without the effect on that guitar?
Yeah.
We're still like that. Like no reverb.
Here he is with Chris Shiflett.
So he gave me his Junior and his Special, 2 Les Pauls, I think both from the 50s, and had me switch to the bridge pickup. And when I played it by myself, it was like, bam, bam, bam. I was like, that's not the Weezer sound. But when you blend it in with the rest of the band, the whole thing just turns into this huge wallop that was super satisfying. I'm really grateful to him for that because we've used those guitars, that sound ever since.
And was that into like a Big Muff into your Mesa Boogie
No.
or what?
No,
Oh, it's
no
just
pedals.
straight in. Really?
Yeah.
No pedals.
No, in fact, the only effects on a guitar, I think, are only in Dreams. There's a little bit of delay on this, on the swells. But apart from that, I was like very anti-effects, so no pedals.
Your first record, I feel like, influenced all of the rest of us to want to go out and buy a Big Muff because I think everybody thought that was a Big Muff.
Nope.
Well, we're clearing that up now. Jesus. Big Muff, thanks you.
I think if the album was half Strat, half Les Paul, that would be noteworthy and something that Rivers would mention in interviews, but he doesn't. So I'd say that settles it.
Okay, welcome to Wayne's World. Party on, Garth.
I guess.
But there's one last piece of the puzzle, so let's up the difficulty. Hard mode. Looking at Weezerpedia once more, in reference to the song In the Garage, we see this quote from engineer Chris Shaw. I believe we used a telly through a Big Muff using the Electric Lady's Fender Twin on that tone, but Rivers said they didn't use a Big Muff, or any pedals for that matter. Actually, both things can be true. Before Jason exited the band, he was playing a Telecaster. So if Chris Shaw recorded a Telecaster playing through a Big Muff, that might have been Jason Cropper. And as we know, Rivers recorded all of Jason's parts after he left the band. So yes, Chris Shaw might have recorded a Telecaster, but no, it actually doesn't appear on the album.
No way. Way.
That being said, the left and right tracks on In the Garage sound different to me, distortion-wise, but that might just be my imagination. Also, Chris Shaw said...
You're making a rock record, so you want to be aggressive, and you want things to kind of hit, smack you in the face.
Yeah.
You know, because we were mixing, and we were always talking about, like, we want the guitars on this record to sound just as loud, if not louder, than the guitars on Creep by Radiohead. You know, so that was sort of our reference.
Which I thought was cool. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to say 100% of the heavy guitars on the Blue Album were Ric Ocasek's Les Pauls. If you know something different, please let me know. I learned a lot during the making of this video, and hopefully you did too. If so, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time...